Hi, everyone. It's Karen Anderson here with Aortichope, and this is our week in review coming to you live. Before we even begin, I want to ask you to like and subscribe wherever the button is on your screen. I always forget where it is on mine. And you want to click the little bell symbol so that you'll be notified of all of our live events, and some of them get really fun and crazy. But today, we have a lot of information to cover because we were unable to go live last week. So we're actually going to just kind of sum up some information starting January 29th and then get into some really good information that we've had over the last 2 weeks. And I'm so excited because we have a new co-host with us today, and that's Bruce. So he's new. Chris is with us. He's been with us before, and Tammy is back. So welcome, everybody. And thanks for being with us. Very exciting. And if you're just watching us, feel free to put comments. Please put comments, put questions. Let us know that you're out there. Even if you're watching this on replay later, just leave us a comment and we will definitely get back to you with an answer or thought. So thanks again. All right, we are starting, and it is Medical Monday. And on this seems like it's so long ago because it was still technically January, right? It was an article from WebMD that was titled "What Surgeries Treat Aortic Aneurysms," and there was so much incredible information in this article if you had a chance to read it. If you ever wanted a really quick aortic aneurysm lesson 101 that had treatment options and what your recovery was going to look like, this was the article for you. And the information in this article actually makes a really good tool in creating a conversation between yourself and your physician. So if anyone in your family has ever had an aortic aneurysm or even a brain aneurysm, you really want to consider talking to your doctor about this and ask for a baseline echo. This goes to all of our talks about think aorta, think family. So those are the key points I want you to take away. But if you get a chance, you really want to take a look at that. But I will tell you that in this article, one of the things they discussed was the two main types of surgery. Hi, puppy. The two main types of surgeries for aortic aneurysm. And so the two really are open, which would be an open chest repair, open side repair, or endovascular. And one of the things that they said was that if you have an open, that is the most common type of surgery. Raise your hand if you had an open. Okay. All right. So we got 4 for 4 here. And it is the most invasive, but what the doctor actually does is replaces that weakened part of your aorta with a tube or a graft that's made from a special fabric, usually a Dacron graft. Or you can have endovascular, which I know that the doctors are trying to look at that as your first primary option. If there's going to be too many risks involved, then they will move to open. But if it is suggested to do an endovascular repair, then what they do, the surgeon will insert a flexible tube into your groin typically, and this wire frame has some material that's pretty special fabric that's attached to this. It's called a stent graft, and it's a very thin tube or catheter, and that will be deployed into the actual aortic wall, and that helps strengthen the wall. And you may or may not get general anesthesia for this, but either way, they give you probably some Versed, and you're nice and looped out so you can have the procedure done and not try to talk about it with your doctors. But that's pretty much the gist of what this was. And we've already discussed, in lieu of time, we've already discussed that we all ended up having open repairs, correct? Okay. And just before we go, have we all talked with our doctors about family history and making sure that those individuals need to be covered and looked at, correct? Yep. All right. Any quick thoughts, Chris, you want to say on this?
No. I
okay.
Pretty much covered it, girl.
All right. All right, Bruce, anything?
I'm just, I have a 10-year-old who, among other things, has autism, and they want me to get tested for some connective, I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, connective tissue disorder or something, because my wife, who does more research on everything than I do, God love her, has read that that's a possible contributing factor to what happened to me. So, and she's afraid that if he has it, then I'm probably due. So I'm not sure about that. Plus, since this happened, I've switched cardiologists, and I'm not too sure how much he knows about this.
Well, I will
So
make one quick suggestion is that you should probably start with the surgeon's office and see if they have a cardiologist or a cardiogeneticist, which would be a cardiologist who also specializes in these types of disorders or in congenital heart defect disorders. And that is usually a great starting place in having a clinical testing done for genetic issues. And until that time, your child's pediatrician should be made aware of this, and they will, when it's appropriate, one way or another, perform any baseline tests they need, regardless if they find something in you. And in the majority of cases, they don't. It is still believed that unless there's been an accident or trauma to your chest, more than likely, we're going to see probably in the next 10, 15 years that just about everybody has some genetic connection to this disease, although it may not be named right away. So
see, another issue I'm having, besides the fact that the only cardiologist my cardiac surgeon recommended, is finding one that actually takes my insurance too.
Right, that can be challenging.
The ones that he referred me to don't take it.
Mm-hmm. It can be a little challenging. And as far as genetic testing, you could always contact the John Ritter Research Program out of Texas. They perform genetic testing for free. However, it is part of a research study. So you may not hear anything back for a few months, if ever. If they find nothing, you will not hear anything back. But if they do find something, they will let you know. And then only then could you do testing in your son. Without knowing something, they can't look for what they don't know to look for. The DNA sequence is just a little too large.
I don't know how familiar the people in this group are with Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital here in St. Louis, but they have done other forms of genetic testing on him. And my wife is thinking maybe I can get tested through there.
That's probably a good idea. That probably is a good idea. And then if you need to, you can always refer back to this article for additional information.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to move on because we are at a crunch for time. We have 2 weeks to go through, and let's move on here to Topic Tuesday. So this was on February 1st, and do you guys all know that February, not only is it Heart Health Month, but it's also Marfan Syndrome Awareness Month. So
that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, Marfan is one of the most common connective tissue disorders or syndromes that cause aortic issues. You have Turner syndrome, Loeys-Dietz, vascular Ehlers-Danlos, just to name a few. There's been a lot more that have been discovered as far as mutations off of Marfan's, and that's a whole other conversation that I am just far from well versed in. But it was Topic Tuesday, and that started Marfan Awareness Month, and there are quite a few identified connective tissue disorders associated with aortic disease, and the most common, as I said, is Marfan. And as stated from the Marfan Foundation, the Marfan syndrome is a genetic disorder that affects the body's connective tissue, and connective tissue holds all of your body's cells, organs, and tissues together. It also plays a very important role in helping the body grow and develop properly. About 1 in 5,000 people have Marfan syndrome, and that's including men and women of all races and ethnic groups. Every person's experience with Marfan syndrome is very different. No one has every exact feature, and people have different combinations of features. Some of the features are a lot easier to see. That would include longer arms, legs, longer fingers, tall, thin body type, curved spine, a chest that sinks in or sticks out, flexible joints, flat feet, crowded teeth, stretch marks on the skin that are not related to weight gain. But it can be a little harder to detect some of this because what they have found in recent years is there are a lot of people out there with Marfan syndrome that do not look anything like that at all. So that would be, there are people that are of larger stature, people that might even be shorter, not necessarily tall. But some of the bigger problems are things that you can't see. That would include heart problems related to the aorta. It could also include sudden lung collapse, eye problems, severe nearsightedness, dislocated lenses, detached retina, early glaucoma, early cataracts, and there's a lot of special tests that will test for all of this, right? It's a lot of information. So we have a link there for you to check it out.
The ironic thing is, a lot of what you mentioned, I had a concave chest before this. I've had my eyes operated on for detached retinas. So, I mean, I'm sitting here going, you're rattling all this off, and I'm sitting here going, okay, I've had this.
Well, the interesting thing about syndromes, though, is, for instance, I detached my retinas. I have a high palate. So I have about 3 of the many items that they would use in a checkoff list, but I do not have Marfan. So yeah.
Another thing I can do is I can take my thumb and touch my wrist.
Okay, so we're all probably sitting here secretly seeing, can we do that as we watch you? Well, this is one of those things that you may, if you don't have the right physician in your area, you may need to consider looking outside and making a trip, because it would be what's in your best interest as well as your son's best interest. But anybody here?
Moving anyway.
Well, okay, well, there you go. Anybody here diagnosed with Marfan? Chris, Tammy?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, but it's great information to learn about anyway. And we do cover it throughout the entire month of February. Especially we will this coming week, because isn't it like going to be President's Day coming up soon, right? And I know it was thought that President Lincoln had Marfan.
And Michael Phelps. If you look at Michael Phelps, he's the classic.
Yes.
Yeah, he is.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on to February 3rd. It was Think Aorta Thursday. And Dr. Ben Udelman, and the reason we put this up is because we actually did a live with him. He is the founder of Aortic Bridge and a board member of the nonprofit Think Aorta US. Does a brilliant job of summarizing exactly what Think Aorta US is really all about. And there was an article we put in here that was it was written right early stages of the pandemic. And I think if you have a chance to check out this article, it really just implores everybody, please talk to your family about your medical history, not only just for aortic issues, just for anything systemic that you might have. You just don't know. If you can't rule out anything that might happen in other family members down the line. So that was that article. You guys should get a chance to check it out. I'm whipping through this, you see, and then I'm going to be quiet and let you guys talk, I promise. Okay, then we went into Friday, and it was the first Friday of the month, February 4th. It was our Wear Red Day. I don't know how many of you actually wore red, but it's National say this fast, okay? Wear Red Day. Just you guys try to do it and tell me you don't end up with a tongue twister. Wear Red Day. I keep wanting to go wear Red Day. Okay. So people wear red to raise awareness about women's cardiovascular disease. And cardiovascular disease in the US kills approximately 1 woman every 80 seconds. And one of the reasons why I think women die earlier, as eloquently described by Dr. Udelman the other day, is because we take our pain and we don't typically talk about it a lot. And cardiovascular issues in women present extremely differently than in men. But the good news is that 80% of cardiac events may be prevented with higher education and lifestyle changes. Go Red for Women advocates for more research and swifter action for women's heart health. And that's why we always ask people to wear red on the 4th. So 5 numbers that all women should know to take control of their heart health would be your total cholesterol, your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and your body mass index. And knowing those numbers can help women and their healthcare provider determine their risk for developing cardiovascular disease. It's time for all women to learn the most critical numbers in their life because their hearts depend upon it. So that was one article we had on Friday. And then something I do want to talk about is we always have a First Friday fundraiser. And this was, I don't know, we're going to not even look at that little bloop that I just saw go wrong. But First Friday, it was our Aortic Disease Awareness Ribbon Card Magnet. For the $10 donation, you can get one of these swifty, awesome looking magnets. I happen to have one handy right here. Look at that. See? And I'm telling you, anytime you have swag, whether it's a magnet or what have you, is somebody going to stop you, Tammy, or what? And ask you questions?
I've had so many conversations from having shirts or the magnet on the back of my car, my bracelet. It's a great way to start a conversation.
And I will tell you that Tammy and I don't live far from each other. So if I'm driving around town and I catch this on a car, I usually get really excited, like, wow, somebody else in town. And then I realize, oh, that's Tammy's car. That's okay. It's a great ribbon. It's a great way to just talk about aortic disease. So if you have a chance, click on the link and you can fill out our swag order form and get yours today with a $10 donation. All right. It was also Smile Amazon Sunday in preparation for today. Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody, by the way. But whether it's Valentine's Day or not, if you click into smileamazon.com, you can actually assign a charity of your choice. And Amazon doesn't charge you anything more, but Amazon gives that charity a small percentage of your applicable sales. They just give it to us. So there's no extra step that anybody in the community needs to do. Pick whatever your favorite charity is. Of course, we would be honored that you choose Aortichope. And when you purchase, whether it's for upcoming Mother's Day, which is around the corner, or Easter, well, that's first, and then Father's Day, and so forth and so on, they give us a small percentage of your sales. So consider doing Smile Amazon. All right, guys, now we're going to bring you into everything that we're going to talk about. Yes, you saw the S word there. Let's get to the beginning of February 7th. It was Motivation Monday. And as we all know, and we talk about this every other week, we accept that doing nothing is sometimes doing something. However, there are people in the community.
Recovery.
Yes.
Doing nothing is recovery.
Yes, it is. Doing nothing is sometimes just good for the soul.
Yes.
Good. But there are some members in the community that need a little bit of support to help them get started, to get them moving a little bit. And that is our movement for movement. And whatever your doctor says you can do, we are asking you to just trust it and do it. And since it's Valentine's month, let's talk about sex as an activity. And as Dr. Udelman says, no contact sports outside of the bedroom when you have aortic disease. But as seen in an article from the Cleveland Clinic written by Dr. Steve Nissen, it was titled 5 Common Questions About Sex and Your Heart. Patients often ask, is sex good for your heart? And the question seems simple enough, but the answer can be complicated, in part because of the limits of what research can tell us. But we do have a strong sense that sex fits into a heart-healthy lifestyle. And I do have the 5 common questions here on the article. But is sex exercise? I don't want any of you to answer that question. It's too much information. But it's a good question to think about. And a lot of people wonder, is sex considered exercise? And assuming an average of 5 to 15 minutes for sexual activity, you get the same amount of activity actually of walking a mile in 20 minutes. Did not know that. Very interesting. There you go. And that's because I'm not going to go into the details, but there's a lot of detail. I just glanced at it. Yeah, I'm going to match the color of my shirt in about 15 seconds. There we go. All right, but don't count sex as your only cardiovascular activity. Wow, why'd I pick this article? I don't even know. Is sex good for your heart? Well, you're not going to burn your daily calories during an average sexual encounter, but it is probably really good for your heart. Again, discuss all this with your doctor because none of us can tell any of you watching this what would be considered good for your heart, but it is considered a form of exercise. Will anyone prove sex is good for your heart? Will anyone prove sex is good for your heart? No, I'm not sure why that's a question, but it was somebody's question. If you have heart disease, is sex risky? Not in the majority of cases, but again, typically if your pressure goes up during sex, let's say to 160/90, it's going to go back down afterwards. Unless you're someone that has a problem with blood pressure staying at a high level, then all activities should be discussed. And does sex benefit your overall health? Yes, it probably does. Even if it's a little bit more of a higher intense workout. But again, let's not have, what did Ben say? No, like bodily contact outside the bedroom. But let's not like pretend we're, having the Super Bowl. Anybody want to comment? comment on this article in time for Valentine's Day.
No, but I do know it's if you want more information, there's a lot of discussion on the boards and what other people have asked their doctors.
Yeah. Chris or Bruce, have you guys been told any information?
I have a complete release.
Okay.
Which pretty much, from what I understand, tells me I can do anything I want.
Good. Chris, any thoughts?
I'm just glad that you gave realistic numbers of the 5 to 15 minutes. That's the beginning.
Hey, look, it could be 2. It could be, I don't know. I'm
just glad you weren't like, yeah, for an hour of this. Like, ain't nobody got time for that.
I thought only menopausal women said that. Okay. All right, but there's a whole other side to this conversation, which is ED. And Dr. Udelman does discuss this in what was our most recent live event. So, it's interesting that there's this article about sex and it benefiting heart health. However, erectile dysfunction is a true issue with men in this community, and a lot of it is due to medication. So please don't hesitate having these conversations with your doctor one way or the other on the spectrum. Okay, we're moving on. Okay. No, there's no vodka in my drink. There should have been. Okay. It is Topic Tuesday.
You made it through that one.
I did. All right. It's Topic Tuesday of this week. And again, Marfan Awareness Month. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was, as you see here in the pictures, we had mentioned it before, 1 in 5,000 people actually have Marfan syndrome. And I'm wondering, now that they have found so many genetic mutations off of this, like, how does that impact the numbers, right? But people with Marfan are 250 times more likely to actually have an aortic dissection, and that could be anywhere in the aorta. So I bet you those numbers are probably also more, I would assume, if you have vascular Ehlers-Danlos, which, or low ED. So yeah, that's something to think about. When we talk about our dissections and you look at the numbers here for someone with Marfan, it's a pretty unique community. Very challenging, have their own set of problems that they need to address. And so to all of our community members that are with us that have Marfan, feel free to send us some more information so we can help bring this unique awareness to the general population as well. That's our Topic Tuesday. And then we went on to Therapeutic Thursday. Now, this is really great if you guys have a chance to click on this link from Thursday. But we were able to find a glossary of all aortic terminology. I mean, there's a lot that's there. Everything from cardiac, I'm going to butcher it again, tamponade, yeah, to malperfusion. These are all words that my husband, like your wife, Bruce, when I was in the hospital, started Googling and coming to the doctor, tell me, did she have malperfusion? I've never even heard of these words before. I'm lucky I knew what an aorta was. But when you go to the doctors and you hear some of these words, check out this glossary, bookmark it, right, Tammy? Because it's pretty helpful.
I've used it a lot, especially when I go in and look at my doctor's notes, like on my portfolio. I don't know if Chris and Bruce, if you can do that, but with the hospital that I'm connected to, you can go in and you see your visit summary, but then you can also see the notes that your doctor wrote. And it has helped me to understand it. Understanding the terminology helps you be able to enter their world a little bit and ask the questions to get your answers by using some of the terminology. It's helped me in that way.
You were talking about doctor's notes and stuff like that. In my area, the big hospital chains have this thing called My Chart.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I mean, we can do pretty much everything. We can read notes, after visit summaries. We can, send messages to our doctors or whatever, all that. So yeah, I can, and I went in there several times and went, what the hell am I looking at?
Yeah. And it can be scary. So this really is a great glossary. If you have notes and you don't want to flip back and forth to WebMD, which then triggers you down this rabbit hole of, I'm going to die. It's sometimes very helpful to just go to the glossary and just look it up and learn a little bit more about your aortic terminology. Chris, any thoughts?
No, I mean, I like the glossary thing, and we've all talked before about, carrying around notepads and stuff because we think about stuff that we need to ask our physician and stuff. But the glossary thing is a good thing, especially looking at the doctor's notes that, again, if they contain more than 7 letters, I'm probably not going to know what the meaning is.
Or are we going to remember them, right? They're
Exactly.
sometimes wild. Before I go into Friday, because I almost forgot, we featured our own Chris as our Survivor series this past weekend. So if you get a chance to check that out, you can go onto our website and go into blog, and you can click on the right-hand side Survivor series, and there's will be Chris's story up for you. You want to check that out. Okay. So we're going to wrap up Therapeutic Thursday, and let's talk a little bit about Friday. What we put up was In Case You Forgot Friday. And on that Thursday evening, last Thursday night, which was, it doesn't say the date, and my brain, well, today's 14th. So I guess it was the, 11th? Yeah, it was our second live event from 2022, and we featured Dr. Ben Udelman. So many amazing questions and information that was discussed. So if you get a chance, you really need to check out the YouTube video on our channel here. And if you have any questions, please send them to us at info@aortichope.org. But in case any of you didn't get a chance to make it, I will tell you that some of the things that stood out to me, and then I want to hear if you did get a chance to watch it, what stood out for you, is, he interchanges the terminology enlargement and aneurysm and what was the other word? So you have an enlargement, dilation. And I said, is there a breaking point in where you now move from dilation to enlargement to aneurysm? And he says, no, he goes, it just sounds less dramatic to say enlargement. It's much more dramatic to say you have an aneurysm. Yeah. Why do you want to freak anybody out? The numbers, they're so specific to body type, to gender, to a rate in which you've achieved this number. And he did say that it's very rare to find higher mortality if you're, under the 4.0 or once things have been diagnosed. I thought that made so much sense. It kind of changes things for you a little bit psychologically if you look at it like that. So I don't know, was there anything that really stood out for you guys if you had a chance to watch it?
I haven't had a chance.
Okay, yeah, you should check it out.
I also didn't get a chance to watch it, but no, I do agree with what you said though about that there's certain ways to explain something that aren't as frightening. I think nowadays, like even with something like cancer, you hear cancer and you're just, you shut down. And I had colon cancer at 21, and you hear that word and it's like everything just, you just immediately shut down. It's the worst of the worst. But if someone says, oh, it's like with our dog, somebody, she had cancer, but the doctor was like, oh, we found a tumor, well, that doesn't sound as bad as what the cancer does, even though it's literally the same thing. It was in fact the exact same thing, and it is what killed her. It just didn't sound as terrifying as what cancer did, and you think of aneurysm, you think, bleeding out, dead, stuff like this. And you hear him say, oh, dilation or whatever the other word was that you said. But those just aren't as serious, I guess, in your mind, is the way that you play it out,
Exactly. One of the other things he had mentioned that I found this to be, he makes me laugh every time, is somebody was talking about exercise and lifting restrictions. And he said, I tell all my patients they can't lift more than 100 pounds. And you just know that mouths, they drop. I've seen it when he's been in a support group meeting. People are like, what, 100 pounds? Well, there's very specific reasoning for that, because look, a woman's suitcase without getting charged is probably hovering at 49.5 pounds anyway. And more than likely, I'm lifting that up and I'm putting it, at the Southwest, counter, or I've pulled it out of my car. As long as I'm breathing and I'm not holding my breath, I'm okay. We're talking about seconds. What's the chances I'm going to lift two 49.5 pound things a lug. I'm not going to do it. So I'm probably never going to get close to 100 pounds anyway. And I think that's, again, the psychological reasoning is if I put the restriction, some people want to push it. If I put the realistic restriction that you're probably not going to get close to anyway, that's a little bit different. And, you know, with certain population of patients, he does have a much more specific conversation, especially people who were into lifting weights. The higher weight isn't going to work. It's the lower with the more reps that's not going to damage your system. And you're still going to get the same result, except you're alive. So again, I think that the exercise, you know, questions I think are very interesting. So again, if there's any questions that anybody here has or anybody that's watching, feel free to type us at, send us a message at info@aortichope.org. He loves answering these questions, and he will definitely be on with us again because he is about to publish a couple articles, and there's some things I know we want to share with the community. One of the things is the outcomes for a PTSD survey that I'm sure you must have seen. If you missed it, that's okay. It'll come around again. And it is incredible what they've realized and how many people are impacted in this community. People who have family history, they have a degree of PTSD just from learning. Then you move into people who are diagnosed with an aneurysm, then their caregivers, then people who have surgery and their caregivers, and then you have people who had a dissection and their caregivers. And it's incredible to see the curve of how bad the PTSD is in each of these areas of aortic disease. So I'm just going to throw it out there and just say, PTSD, member of that club?
And again, you know, I think our caregivers, you know, either have just as much, if not maybe even more, PTSD. You know, my wife is in the medical field. You know, I've mentioned that she's a nurse, but you know, she's seen aortic dissection. She's seen aortic dissections in the middle of a completely different type of surgery, and she's watched an aorta dissect, and she's seen that person die from that. And to go through what she did, you know, with me, and to be told that, hey, that's what happened. He's actually still alive. We need to go do the surgery. Surgery taking twice as long as they told her it was going to. Flatlining a couple times, you know, then having strokes and all that. You know, I think her PTSD, I think, in all honesty, it's worse than mine. You know, I've said it once, if not a million times. I didn't go through this. We both did, you know, because she went through just as much crap as I did. I bared the physicality of it, but mentally, she went through more mentally than I did, you know, as far as the dissection, you know, learning how to talk and walk and all that stuff again after the strokes. I bared the physical and the mental but you know, the actual dissection, you know, she went through more than I did. And I think our caregivers, you know, deal with a lot of that PTSD that maybe we don't give them as much credit for as what we should.
I completely agree.
I'd have to agree. I would have to agree. I'm not, you know, in my case anyway, as I said, you know, I got a 10-year-old son who's autistic and has a litany of his own health issues. In March, when this happened, last March, I can't imagine what he was going through, thinking, you know, he's lost his dad and, you know, all this. On top of everything else he already deals with on a daily basis. So yeah, between my wife and my son, they definitely got it worse than I do right now. So
I agree with both of you. My experience with my husband, I remember this one incident when I was expecting him to calm me down with something that was going to happen, and he didn't use the right words. He just was like, "You're going to be fine." And I just let loose on him about, how do you know I'm going to be fine? And his response to me, I equated if he was scared for me, that he loved me.
What did you
But
want, son?
he said to me, if I'm scared, what's going to happen? And then I realized, his PTSD, or, he has so much, he's bearing so much more weight than I am, because I'm allowed to show that I'm scared and I've got all this support. But if he shows that he's scared, what's going to happen to the two of us? So
Right.
I agree with both of you.
Yep. All right. We're going to move on to what was our Seatbelt Sunday. And this is, I don't know if all of you have your seatbelts, but before I go into the seatbelts, I think we have a quick comment. Yeah, so Melissa was mentioning that I believe it was her 13-year-old daughter was having conversations that if she was still around after surgery, then I guess they would be discussing the next step. It's really hard. I've often asked my son, who was 15 at the time when I had a conversation with him, the 5 minutes I had to address my family, and I did my big terms of endearment speech goodbye, which is what it felt like. How badly he was affected. And for him, I'd already had multiple surgeries for Crohn's disease. So he didn't really get the severity. I know that he gets it now looking back. So it affects everybody. It's affected my friends a lot as well. I don't know if you guys notice, like my whole friendship world has shifted. A lot of people don't know how to hear my stories or hear how I'm feeling, and don't want to necessarily hear the truth. And a lot of them were impacted because they were part of my final call list, from the ambulance. So it affects people differently. It's very hard. But if you think that you may be having PTSD, or you're not sure, but maybe let's say you're experiencing nightmares, or you're hearing or smelling or tasting different things that may not necessarily be there, if your moods are just up and down, just go talk to somebody, because you don't need to suffer and endure it. There are treatment plans that do work fairly quickly, and PTSD treatment's covered by insurance. So it's something to think about and look into. But on that note, we're going to go into I'm sorry, someone say something?
Yeah, I just want, you were talking about therapy and all that. I wanted to let you know, because I know you and I have talked about this before. I finally found a therapist in my area that deals with PTSD and all that. So, and he's dealt with a few that have had similar things. So,
well, there is a community member, albeit he's in Spain, that is a therapist and has had a dissection about 15 years ago. So for those of you that are watching this, if that would be someone that you would like to speak with, we'd be more than happy to connect the two of you. And if it makes sense, this would be outside of aortichope. Feel free to discuss or ask questions just like you would with any other community member, but you send us an email, ask us the question, we'll be sure to connect you. Seatbelt Sunday. We still have a great partnership with Help Belts, which is a medical alert seatbelt cover. And so this is so different than thinking about medical ID bracelet, because this can go with you in any of your vehicles, passenger seat. It can go on your driving seatbelt, but it is $15 domestic donation is what we're asking for, $20 if you're international. And the Help Belts are great. And I should have prepared you to see if you had any near you, Tammy. You could have just held one up, but they look just like this. I mean, they're brightly colored. They come in yellow, black, or red. And they are 9x2. They are Velcroed shut. They have a pocket on the inside to place any of your important medical information, your allergies, the medications you're on, even though a lot of this is saved in the computer system now. But you can choose thoracic aortic aneurysm, abdominal aortic aneurysm, medic alert, aortic dissection, and we also have one from Marfan Syndrome. So if you were in a car accident, and especially if an airbag goes off, I don't care if you're watching this and you don't have aortic disease, if somebody does not give you a CT scan, you need to request it, because that is trauma to the chest. And if you are in this community and you have that on your belt, someone's going to see it right away, and no doubt that you'd be getting that CT scan. So again, these are what they look like. They're comfortable. You can wash them with a sponge. They're not cumbersome at all. They just slap right onto your seatbelt, and it's a great way to alert somebody. Who has it?
One question.
Who has one? Yes.
Do you have one for an ascending aortic dissection?
We have thoracic. So thoracic would include ascending because it's in the upper level,
Right.
and abdominal would be in the lower. So yes, if you have ascending, you could use a thoracic. I personally use the aortic dissection. That's the one I use.
I had an ascending aortic dissection is what I had.
So
you probably you could go with the aortic dissection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And or you can go with medical alert.
Ask.
And you do know, it's interesting, the woman who started this, her son was severely autistic. And as an infant, she would put pieces of paper or cards attached to safety pins on him in the car seat in case there was an accident, so that it would notify somebody how they can best interact with him to keep him calm. Well, as a 19, 20, 21-year-old, there's no more car seat. It was difficult to put these safety pin cards on, and this is how the help belt was born.
I have, well, we have a help belt for my son about autism.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
You know, so yeah, I've actually thought about getting one of those from here.
So you should consider getting one. And
I'm thinking about it.
Well, just got to click on our resources section. Actually, go to our Hope Shop section on our website, and
which I
look
have
at
saved
Hope
in
Swag.
Which I have saved in my favorites, by the way.
Okay, that's the way it should be. Bookmarked right on the top of your screen. But right in there, you'll see a form that you can fill out, and then you can let us know if you're going to make your donation via check or via PayPal. So what we have coming up, though, is on the 16th, Wednesday night, we are going live with Bill Barnhart. He is one of our board members. He has Marfan Syndrome. He's going to talk about what life is like having Marfan and having to live your life. And his eldest of 3 children, she also has Marfan. She'll be leaving for college soon. And she started a whole campaign of providing care packages in backpacks to teens. So they're pretty involved in the Marfan Foundation, and he'll be sharing with us what life is like with Marfan. And I will tell you, it was very interesting for me. He had come into town, got clean bill of health, pardon the pun, Bill, and on his way home had a dissection spontaneously on the Beltway. So go figure, you just had his scan, everything was fine. And as he's driving home, he, dissected. So it's very interesting things that happen, precarious situation for those individuals with Marfan. And then on the 17th, it's bingo night with Aortic Hope. So fun, free. You can register. It is on our event section on our website, as well as underneath the events for Aortic Hope on Facebook. Register, and we'll be sure to send you your bingo card. And do not mark it up. Please grab some pennies, dimes, whatever, not a marble, but anything, I don't care, candy, M&Ms, so that you can mark your cards and reuse them.
Swag.
Yeah, winning lots of swag. We actually had something that was donated. I'm going to show it to everybody that night by a community member, handmade item. Another painting that I made is going to be donated. We've got water bottles and mugs and shirts or caps, all kinds. It's just a fun night of some fun items. So we invite you all to join us that night. And that is what is coming up. This was coming up. What else you guys had going on? Anything special? Any big plans for Valentine's Day?
Nah, wife has to work.
Hey, Valentine's Day, it can be any day.
My grandchildren.
Well, there you go. Bringing them some chocolates, little hearts.
Of course. And then leave it.
Of course, yeah.
And donuts. I even have donuts for them.
Yep.
She's going to get them wired and then send them home.
Exactly. And say, now they're your problem. All right. And before we go, thoughts about halftime show?
It was good.
I liked Prince and Bruno better.
I see. Yeah, I agree with her. Prince in 2007 singing "Purple Rain in the Rain." You're not gonna. I'm sorry, you're just not gonna beat that. I don't. I don't care. I don't care who it is that puts on a show. There's just no way you're gonna beat that.
I didn't
100%.
I didn't actually see it, but I got to give respect to two people that were involved in it, and that's Eminem and Mary J.
Yes.
Because they're both recovering.
Yep. That's great. That's a good point. I thought it was fabulous. Couldn't remember any of the words, but I had a bowl of cereal and was dancing around the living room and had a grand old time. And then sat down. I said, "Oh my God, I needed more Eminem. I really needed more of that." I was all ready to rap with that one, but you are hands down. Prince will always be the #1 halftime show. No way to beat it. Always. Oh, quick comment. Let's see. What could it be about?
Whoa.
Bo
Very
is
nice.
making his wife a steak dinner for Valentine's Day. Way to go, Bo.
I'm making pasta.
Oh, he does that. He does make a good point. He said okay, let's just say Bo did not care for the halftime show. That's okay. But
I
does
would
feel
watch the
that
Michael Jackson one
Michael
again.
Jackson in 97. You know, I totally forgot about that. And that was a great show. However, in my opinion, to Chris's point, Purple Rain in the Rain. Hey, come on.
Prince,
Come on, Bo.
and again, you know, that was whenever, you know, they actually did a halftime show just by themselves. You know, like
Right.
Prince literally got out there and just put on the halftime show just by himself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you know, when, you know, coming out there in true Prince fashion and his stage and everything, the way it was just set up and everything. I mean, like it's a memory like that will just live on forever in my mind. Michael Jackson 97, I mean, I'm younger than everybody here, at least, but still, you know, in 97, I do actually remember that. Michael Jackson is literally one of my favorite people ever as far as musicians. Between him and Prince and Whitney Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Come
You
on.
just said it. I was just going to say before we go, national anthem.
Yep.
Who gets that?
Whitney Houston singing the national anthem will never. We can all agree Fergie did not do a good job. Okay, Fergie will go down as the
Fergie
worst.
sucked.
I don't care what anybody else says. All right, Fergie was awful. Like that was just pure horrid. But the girl last night singing, I don't remember who it was. She did a really good job. I did like it.
It was pretty. It was
But
very
it wasn't
pretty.
it wasn't Whitney
It was
Houston.
tasteful.
I mean,
Yes.
it's got to be really hard. Anybody who sings it, you know you're in Whitney's shadow unless you completely do it totally different. So she had a beautiful voice, the woman who sang last night.
Yes, she did.
Put that to the side now, and let's just oodle again how wonderful Whitney's voice was. She was so good. You know, you can't. They're just two different conversations. I mean, when you hear Whitney sing it, I feel like in those rare moments, everybody there, they were all together, just joined. Like when you would hear her sing, you just, everything was right. Everything was good. Everything was happy. You got chills. You just felt like kumbaya, the whole wide world. Meanwhile, we're on the brink of watching Russia invade Ukraine. I probably shouldn't talk about it because someone's going to come to my house and
while the world was completely in a different place then, you know what though? If she would get out there, even being on crack and everything else that she was on, but you know, at the end of her life, but if she would have got out there and she would have done the national anthem again, everything in the world just seems okay to me. You know, because it was Whitney Houston. But
exactly. All right. That is it for this week's. I'm sorry, we may have a question or comment. Oh, well, maybe Melissa says she got goosebumps because of the halftime show, or maybe she means it about Whitney Houston. So Bo feels that Whitney Houston and Meatloaf did a great job. I do not know that national anthem by Meatloaf. I'll have to look it up.
I don't either.
Meatloaf did a good job.
I'm
Not the
going to go look
greatest,
that up.
Gosh.
Bo
Pretty
has
good.
me on a mission now. I'm going to go hunt down Meatloaf's version of the national anthem. Thanks. Thanks for sharing that. Good to learn new things. All right. Well, everybody, this was 2 weeks in review. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Hold on, kiddo.
everybody that's watching, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can be notified when all these fun, wonderful events happen again. And as a reminder, we do have a live event happening on Wednesday on the 16th with Bill Barnhart, our board member, talking everything Marfan. We have bingo on the 17th. And yeah, those are 2 exciting live events getting ready to happen. We see a puppy in the camera, and I got to go get my puppy. But thank you all again so much for joining us. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. We'll be sure to get back with you. Thank you again so much. Bye.
Later.